Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Katie Wilson wants illegals to vote, and the case about protecting girls' sports is heading to the Supreme Court. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
10 days, 12 days into 2026, and the left has already sided with a Venezuelan dictator narco-terrorist flooding the U.S. with drugs and killing his own people, Somalian fraudsters stealing welfare funds that they claim they're all about championing, activists attacking federal agents, Tren de Aragua, one of the most violent gangs in the world, Hamas, and the Ayatollah. Did I miss anybody? Did I miss anything? It's only been 12 days of 2026, and already the Democrats are on the wrong side of every single issue. I thought originally it was just they're so open-minded their brains have fallen out. I thought they are such bleeding heart liberals that it's just their compassion, and I'm using air quotes for that, got the better of them. I thought it was Trump derangement syndrome. But then I realized it's something else. No, they're just anti-law and order. Now, that may sound like a simplified explanation, but no, it really is what's going on. They want to circumvent the law so they can impose their will. It has nothing to do with progressivism. It has nothing to do with liberalism. It has nothing to do with an agenda. Their agenda is destroying whatever is in front of them to get money, to get power, whatever the case may be. Why are the Democrats backing up some gang members in Portland? Let's go over what happened. Last week, we found out on Thursday that there had been a shooting right after the shooting in Minnesota of some people by ICE. And immediately the left went, they're killing people. It could be anybody. Could be anybody. Next. Well, then there was this shooting in Portland. And what did we find out? It was a couple of gang members. Well, now we have more information about it and video and pictures. I'm reading a press release from the Justice Department. Today, the Justice Department announced criminal charges against Luis Nino Moncada, an illegal alien and known Tren de Aragua associate living in the Portland, Oregon area, for violently striking a federal law enforcement vehicle. During a targeted enforcement operation, Moncada is alleged to have repeatedly struck a federal law enforcement vehicle, placing Border Patrol agents in harm's way and resulting in significant damage to federal property. He is in the country illegally, having been previously ordered removed by an immigration judge in 2024. Hang on, who was president in 2024? Hang on, who was it again? Because it wasn't Trump.
Obama.
No, not him. The other. There you go. That guy. So, hang on a second. For Joe Biden, or whoever was pulling Joe Biden's strings, to actually kick somebody out of the country, to actually put them on the deportation list, they must have been really bad. This guy had been charged with aggravated assault of a federal officer with a deadly or dangerous weapon, depredation of federal property in excess of $1,000. According to the complaint, Border Patrol agents initiated a targeted immigration enforcement operation on a vehicle believed to belong to a female involved in Tren de Aragua prostitution ring. The female was sitting in the passenger seat of the vehicle at the time of the enforcement operation. This female had previously been arrested by the Border Patrol in El Paso, Texas, and later failed to report to immigration authorities. For those of you on the left who are going to say, well, she could have, she was in slavery, she was part of a gang. When you're arrested, you can be saved by the authorities. Say, I'm being trafficked. They will help you. According to law enforcement reports, the female is believed to have been involved in the shooting stemming from a bad prostitution deal. After commanding Moncada to exit the vehicle, he is alleged to have placed his vehicle in reverse, colliding with an unoccupied Border Patrol vehicle with enough speed and force to cause it significant damage. The whole front of this thing is missing. There are pictures attached to it. The whole front fender came off this sucker. He continued the forward and reverse maneuver multiple times, striking Border Patrol vehicles multiple times. A Border Patrol agent interviewed by the FBI special agents described being fearful that Moncada could strike them and other Border Patrol agents with the target vehicle. After the attack, him and the female passenger fled the scene in the target vehicle. Damage to the Border Patrol vehicle was significant. By the way, they're underselling it. Somehow he got the front, the side, the doors, and part of the quarter panel, the rear quarter panel. How he managed to do that? Very, very impressive. During an interview following the incident, he admitted to intentionally ramming the Border Patrol vehicle in an attempt to flee, and stated that he knew it was an immigration enforcement vehicle. This is a gang member that the left has held up as a hero. Would you like to know how bad it is? Here's the Portland Police Chief, Bob Day, giving an update on the situation. Now, the beginning of this sounds like any other press conference. And then he starts crying. I kid you not. The Chief of Police of Portland starts crying.
I want to speak for just a moment specifically to my Latino community. It saddens me that we even have to qualify these remarks, because I understand, or at least have attempted to understand through your voices, your concern, your fear, your anger. This information in no way is meant to disparage or to condone or support or agree with any of the actions that occurred yesterday.
Nobody assumes it does. Nobody assumes that a Tren de Aragua gang member represents the entire Latino community, except for the left. Weak men create weak times, and that's what we're seeing. Every criminal in Portland just saw the chief of police crying and said, well, if I'm a certain race, he's going to cry over me getting arrested too. I can do whatever I want. Weak men create weak times. And that's what we just saw there. Crying. There's no crying in immigration enforcement. Are you kidding me with this nonsense? Now, the left allows their foot soldiers of Antifa and whatever other activist group to do whatever they want because they're following the 2020 game plan. If they riot enough, people will think President Trump doesn't have a grip on the country, and maybe that'll help us win the midterm election. So, these abolish ICE radicals set up a new autonomous zone in Portland, which has its own barricades. Wait a minute. So now you want borders to work? Now you think borders can work? No, you just want the pandemonium and chaos. Because if people are scared, they will vote for whatever it is to make them not scared. And if this is the status quo, they're going to choose something else. But Democrats gave away the game. And in fact, the one who did was our very own Pramila Jayapal, Democratic Congresswoman, representative of Hamas. Pramila Jayapal literally called to defund Homeland Security. Well, why do you think a terrorist supporter would want to defund Homeland Security?
And I think that we as Democrats cannot vote for more money for this unaccountable Department of Homeland Security that is terrorizing people across the country. Not the worst of the worst. U.S. citizens, residents, people who have been here for 20 years without ever committing a crime.
But they're here illegally. And by the way, the Tren de Aragua gang member, I don't feel bad that he's in jail. Let me ask you something, Pramila. You ever hear of Trooper Christopher Gadd? Washington State trooper, you represent Washington State, killed by an illegal alien. Had a 2-year-old daughter, had a young wife. Never heard you say anything about him. Not once. Not any of the other victims of illegal alien violence. Not once. They want the chaos. They want the controversy, and they don't want to enforce the law. When was the last time you heard the Democrats talking about enforcing the rule of law? Only when it came to prosecuting Donald Trump. You never hear about it any other time. You want to know how bad it is? This is a story from Fox News. Adam Stewart, CEO of Crowds on Demand. Yes, if you want to have a speech and have hundreds of people there, you can hire one of these companies and make it look like you're a big deal. He told Fox News Digital his firm would not touch the Minneapolis protests with a 10-foot pole, citing blocked roadways, obstruction of federal agents, and threats against authorities after a fatal shooting during an ICE enforcement operation. Quote, blocking roadways, obstructing federal agents, and threatening authorities are illegal, and we don't engage in any form of illegal protest, he said, warning that the chaos playing out on city streets will have the opposite effect demonstrators claim to want. The impact of these protests will actually be to increase ICE operations, not to decrease them. He said mixing peaceful protesters with agitators creates serious risks on multiple fronts. He's 100% right. Quote, a lot of the people protesting on the streets are actually violent. They are unhinged, unstable people who pose a risk to peaceful protesters. That's why we're staying out. He rejected claims that blocking roads or confronting officers amounts to non-violent resistance, calling those actions inherently dangerous, particularly during active law enforcement operations. Quote, when you block the ability of federal agents to get in and out of a scene, you are putting them at risk from a violent mob. That ability to enter and exit safely is fundamental to law enforcement. He added, the roads are icy and snowy. You're creating barriers that put vehicles at risk. You're also putting yourself and other protesters at risk. We know a lot of these activists are paid, but a lot of them don't come from these companies. They're just unhinged, far-left activists who, because they're not working making coffee at Starbucks at that given moment, are more than happy to earn $50 an hour. From many of these activist groups that have been well documented are paying the protesters to go out there. And they decide to riot, so be it. It helps the cause. It's beyond crazy that this is what's going on. Beyond crazy. And you see the violent results of this last night. Our friend Cam Higbee is out in Minneapolis documenting what's going on. He's there with another independent journalist, Nick Sorter. Both of them were part of the Antifa roundtable that President Trump had at the White House. They went down there to cover the violence and almost ended up being victims of it themselves. First, Sorter was attacked while videoing what's going on. Now, the crazy thing to me is, where's Jacob Frey? Where is Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis? Oh, right. He let his city get burned to the ground last time. Why wouldn't he do the same thing again? Where's Tim Walz? There's rumors that Tim Walz might even be resigning this week. Where's Tim Walz to shut this down? You want to show you're in charge. Instead, they're letting the lunatics run the city. He wanted to call out the National Guard to go after ICE, but he won't call them out to protect the city streets of Minneapolis. We're seeing 2020 on replay. We'll just call this the winter of love. So these far-left activists decide to attack Nick Sorter. Luckily, federal law enforcement agents interceded on his behalf and got him out of there. So when him and Cam Higbee are trying to leave, they surround his vehicle, and I believe it was a rental car, and they smash the windows, they graffiti it, and try to stop them from driving away. And I can't play the clip on air because there's too many F-bombs to censor. But every other word is cussing them out, saying how they want to kill the streamers. You hear anybody else in media object to this? You hear any politician object to this? No, of course not. Instead, who do you hear the Democrats backing? Tren de Aragua, Nicolas Maduro, Hamas, the Ayatollah. How many other causes have they been on the wrong side of just in the last week and a half? And this illustrates my point. They want the chaos. They want the controversy because they think it helps them with the polls. And the truth is that Americans are tired of this garbage, which is why the Democrats haven't seen a bump in their polls. Have you seen Trump go down a little bit? Sure, yeah. But it's not helping their chances. Because at the end of the day, people want to know their streets are safe. And this lunacy doesn't make you look any better. It makes it look like you're backing the psychopaths. And now I think that's what the Democrats are about. Not because it's TDS, not because they're so open-minded their brains have fallen out, but because they want the chaos, because they want to circumvent the law. Who's the party who wants open borders? Who's the party who wants to keep giving money to fraudsters even though they know there's fraud? Who's the ones who want to circumvent every law they possibly can? That's right. You know the answer to that question. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from my good friend, Alma. Alma, my darling, I haven't heard from you since the new year. Happy New Year to you and yours.
Excuse me. Happy New Year, and I missed you too.
I'm glad to hear it, Alma. What did I do wrong today? Because I know that's why you're calling.
You said we Democrats are following a guy who whatever I can't remember. You guys are following Trump right to hell. Trump, you do your imperialism. He done made the United States an imperialistic country. That woman, poor good, was shot in the head. That was a lady with babies, Ari.
Well, hang on, Alma. Let's discuss this for a second. Everybody thinks it's a tragedy, but that lady went out there to interfere with ICE and put herself in danger, and then drove her vehicle towards the ICE agent after her wife said, "Drive, baby, drive." It's in the video that came out on Friday.
I saw the video too, and the poor lady was she had 3 kids. That don't give nobody the right to shoot him in the head when she was trying to get away.
Alma, she drove at an ICE officer. She drove at an ICE officer. If she had just said, "Yes, sir," she would have gotten a ticket.
Oh, Ori, ICE is out here killing innocent people. Yes, I hope they, and there's no thing, what you call us, Antifa, that you guys made that up. We're a group of great people.
Wait, hang on, Alma. Having been threatened by Antifa and having gotten death threats from Antifa, you think I'm making them up?
No, you've been made them up about a year or two ago, or you did that.
A year or two ago? 5-6 years ago is when they threatened me, Alma. You think I'm making them up? Who are the people who took over 6 blocks of Seattle?
Can I ask you one question? How can you follow a man like Trump?
How can I follow a man like Trump? Well, let's see, Alma. My gas prices are going down even here in Washington. Do you think it's right that an illegal alien killed a Washington State trooper?
No, I don't think nobody should kill nobody.
Excellent. Do you think that the illegal alien who killed the Washington State trooper should have been in Washington State when he had domestic violence charges he was convicted of?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so then what are we arguing about here, Alma?
Please, let me say this, Ari. There was a guy shooting his gun on New Year's, a citizen. If an ICE agent came out, he didn't even have his badge or nothing on. And he told the guy, quit shooting. He shot the guy in the head because he could. He didn't even have anything to show that he was an ICE agent.
I don't even know which story you're talking about right now, Alma. I don't even know which one you're referencing.
I'll get that article.
Okay.
Can I send you that article?
You send that one over to me because that one I don't know about. But, Alma, it's so good to hear your voice. Happy New Year to you and yours. All right.
And yours too. God bless.
All right. You guys take care now. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including how Katie Wilson wants illegal aliens to vote. Said so in front of thousands of people yesterday. Tell you all about it. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Would it be funny if the protests in Seattle were actually a psyop by ICE? Sort of. What do I mean by that? Because if all of a sudden you know that Seattle people love to protest whatever the cause is, and you said, hey, let's organize a protest in Cal Anderson Park and get every activist under the sun out to Cal Anderson Park, site of the deadly 2020 autonomous zone. You send all of them out there, and then you've got the entire Seattle metropolitan area to yourself to conduct ICE raids. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I would find it extremely entertaining if that's what was actually going on. I have no evidence to support this theory, nor do I think it's likely, but I do think ICE is looking at these flyers the activists like Indivisible, the George Soros organization, are putting out there and saying, well, if they're all going to be at Cal Anderson Park, this is great. Let's go do ICE raids in the rest of the city, right? Let's do that. Now, there were thousands of people at this rally in Cal Anderson Park. I don't think it's as many as the activists are saying. I looked at some footage of the thing. Oh, I think you had like 2,000 to 3,000 people. The activists are saying you had 6,500 people. Okay, if that's the case, good on you, because it was rain and cold over the weekend, so fine. You had Katie Wilson, Seattle's socialist/communist mayor, but I repeat myself, speaking at this thing, and I want to know if you hear what I hear. Sounds to me like during her remarks, she said she wants illegal aliens to vote. Give a listen and tell me if you hear what I hear.
This is your city. And when I say that, I mean everyone. People who were born here in Seattle, people who came here from across the country and from across the world. Whatever the status of your immigration paperwork, this is your city. You deserve to be safe, to live a dignified life, and to have a say in your government.
Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. You deserve to have a say in your government. It's not your government. Your government is whatever country you came from. It becomes your government if you're a citizen of the United States of America. Until then, it is the government of the country you are visiting legally or illegally. You don't deserve jack squat. Right now, the fact that she said that means, of course, she's going to look the other way on any allegations of things going on in the immigrant community, especially the illegal immigrant community, because she doesn't believe that there should be a term called illegal immigrant. She believes everybody should have the right to vote. This is who is running our city. Are we surprised by this? Her remarks last week, where she was fuming over a woman who drove a car towards an ICE agent, this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
Yesterday, armed ICE agents in an unmarked vehicle detained 3 North Seattle neighbors at Evergreen Washelli Cemetery. I am furious. 3 neighbors.
Neighbors. This is like unsheltered neighbors. No, they're illegal aliens who are up in North Seattle at the place of the hotbed of prostitution and drug-related activity.
At the federal government's abuse of power. It is unacceptable to kidnap people who are simply going about their lives.
Kidnap people! Oh, them's fighting words.
There is no place for this in Seattle. This latest abuse comes on the heels of the murder of Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis by federal agents. Renee was a poet, a caring neighbor, and a mother.
A poet, caring neighbor, and mother who drove her car at ICE agents, who was spending all the time before the viral video trying to interfere with ICE operations. We have the answer now to what her car was doing parked diagonally across the street. She was trying to stop the ICE agents from doing their job. She was heckling them. She was mocking them. She was dancing. Her wife was videoing the whole thing. You don't want to have problems? Don't put yourself in the middle of ICE agents doing what ICE agents do.
Someone with a family whose community is now grieving unimaginable loss. These are not abstractions. These are real people, real families, and real harm. I know many people in our community are frightened and outraged about the way ICE and other federal enforcement agencies are being deliberately deployed across the country to intimidate and harm our communities. I am heartbroken and outraged, too. This moment demands action. Here's what we're doing.
Ah, yes. Then she tells everybody to go join the George Soros organization. Bravo. Well done. Now, these activists here in Seattle, is anybody surprised that they're protesting in Seattle? I want to know what you think. Do you think these activists over time are actually having an impact on the American psyche to be part of their cause? Or do you think this is like during the pro-Hamas riots when they block enough freeways, all of a sudden you're actually making people hate them more? What direction do you think these guys go? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Troy in Poulsbo. Troy, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, how you doing? I was listening earlier, and somebody said they have another autonomous zone.
You mean the one in Minnesota, in Minneapolis?
That. Yeah. Well, what they ought to do is if they want to barricade it and not let anybody in, well, maybe we should just, surround it and barricade them from getting out. And then pretty soon when they run out of water and food, they could say, hey, I need medical assistance, food, and water. Make them sign a little piece of paper giving up their citizenry and self-deporting. See you later, pal. And then we won't have this crap anymore.
So I'll tell you something, Troy. I was laughing that they called it the autonomous zone here in Seattle. Why? There was nothing autonomous about them. Do you remember they demanded more barricades from Seattle, and Seattle spent $1 million on those barricades? Do you remember they demanded hygiene stations? Do you remember they demanded water? Do you remember they demanded everything? And then when they tried to grow a garden in the 3 weeks this thing was there, they were trying to plant it on top of AstroTurf. Do you remember? There was nothing autonomous about this. And then they got money from the government to leave. Right. Where's the autonomy in that?
Yeah, there's no autonomy, and it's hysterical from, us, I would say, normal people who have a normal way of thinking. Listen to some of these complete deranged idiots that call in and argue with you and argue with Lars and everybody else. We're just sitting back going, good gravy, man. What planet are half of these people on?
Yeah.
To sum it up, the woman was violating the lawful ICE agents, and she got ran over. She, as they say, there's an F word, and she around, and she found out. And that's unfortunate that she's dead. But guess what? You don't do that. Normal people don't do that.
Right.
And that's the reason why she's dead.
Right. You don't put yourself in the middle of traffic and you don't die. Troy, I'm sure you remember during the autonomous zone, those lunatics who were walking across the freeway every night and then they were absolutely shocked when one of them got run over by a car. You remember that nonsense? Yeah. Shock,
Absolutely.
surprise.
I tell people at work all the time, if you pet the cobra, it's going to bite you in the face. Generally is what happens.
Well, what do you mean, Troy? It's such a pretty animal. Look how beautiful that, and it makes a nice little noise when it's coming at you. Troy, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including the fraud. Is it now reaching Ilhan Omar? Is this something that's going to implicate her? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. There's a great scene in The West Wing when they're talking about assassinating or putting on trial a terrorist who's the leader of a foreign country, a fictitious foreign country that's supposed to be somewhere in the Middle East. And they bring him evidence. They bring President Bartlett evidence and evidence and evidence. And you're going, okay, they got him. And he goes, this isn't a cave dweller. This is Capone. His words, not mine. Trying to say, no, this person is shielded from so many things. You have to have them dead to rights on every charge. It can't be a smoking gun. You need the gun. You need the bullet. You need the body. You need motive. You need opportunity. You need everything. I'm kind of curious. We all think Ilhan Omar is up to her eyeballs in the fraud, but we don't have it solid yet. Did she pass the legislation that allowed the fraud to happen with no guardrails whatsoever? Absolutely. But she's a Democrat politician. They love doing that. That just means she's dumb or can't see enough in front of her to realize this could be taken advantage of. Or you're 100% right. She did it purposely. Were her donors involved in the Feeding Our Future scandal where 12.9 million fake meals were paid for and reimbursed but never actually served to anybody? Absolutely. Did she get campaign money from them? Absolutely. Did she have an event in their facility where they were supposedly making these meals and didn't go, where are they making all these meals? Absolutely. I'm not sure we have it yet. However, what you're seeing happen right now is the rats jumping ship. What do I mean by that? The fact that Tim Walz announced he's not running for re-election, that is huge in the political world. This is a guy who thought he was going to cruise to a third term just like Jay Inslee, and Nick Shirley, with a cell phone and a microphone, was able to stop that because we now see how embroiled in all this Tim Walz or how incompetent he was in order to allow it. What do I mean by the rats jumping ship? Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, he is now saying, yeah, there might actually be fraud because he saw what happened to the last guy who said there wasn't fraud. This was him on Face the Nation this weekend.
Let me ask you about the leadership in your state. Dozens of people in Minnesota have been charged and convicted with stealing millions of dollars of taxpayer money for government programs. Do you think Governor Walz did enough to stop the fraud in your state? And do you support his decision not to run for re-election?
Well, look, Governor Walz is the reason that we've got paid family leave in Minnesota. He's the reason we've got free school lunches. Him and we've been through thick and thin.
But did he do enough to combat fraud,
over these
Mayor?
last 5 years.
Did he do enough to combat fraud?
Look, obviously everybody could have done more to prevent fraud, and I think that's a fair point to make. Do more to prevent fraud, and you look what he's doing right now. He's setting up a whole bunch of infrastructure to do that. And by the way, look, the fraud's real. We've all got to acknowledge it.
Whoa, wait a second. This is a guy who last week and the week before was denying the fraud even existed. Isn't it amazing when the lamestream media actually does their jobs and say there's actual fraud? You guys denied it. You guys looked the other way on it. Why didn't you address it? Now, if you want something else, a little arrow in your quiver about why you think Ilhan Omar is part of this, because she's just denying.
Treasury Secretary Bessent called Minnesota ground zero for what may be the most egregious welfare scam in our nation's history to date. 85 of the 98 people who were charged by the Justice Department with this welfare scheme are Somali. And you know this. The Treasury Secretary is probing whether any of the money was somehow funneled outside the country. He actually issued new standards. He's going to make it make someone disclose if they receive public assistance when they try to wire money out of the country, and he's lowered the bar for suspicious activity. What is the practical impact of doing that in the community?
It's just creating fear. What they are doing is creating confusion, chaos, trying to intimidate people from being able to exercise their regular, normal activities that they would. There is no justification.
You mean their regular fraudulent activities? Nothing to see here, even though a bunch of people got charged years ago. This isn't new. This has been going on for years now. And forget the 90 some odd people who were charged. All of these fraud schemes involve thousands of people agreeing to use themselves or their children to get kickbacks in these schemes. This isn't just 90 people. This is thousands of people who live in the area. We see that you have a Somali council member resign in Maine. You see that you have another one in Portland who's asking for ICE to get out of the city. It seems like these are the two directions. Either get out of my city because I'm worried about getting arrested, or I'm resigning before something really, really bad happens. Ask yourselves why Jacob Fry doesn't want ICE in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. I think it's becoming clearer all the time. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Kevin in Belltown. Kevin, what's up, man?
Hey, Ari, how are you?
Oh, I'm just peachy. Thank you.
Good. Well, I'm actually in Palm Beach County right now. I'm a dual resident, and you really can't get farther apart physically and politically, for that matter. And there's a few things I'd like to discuss. And the first one is why are the federal agents here anyhow? It's because we have a lawless city in Seattle, and where does that come from? It comes from the Katie Wilsons. It comes from the Bob Fergusons. The woman you mentioned her name, Pramila. She looks like the female character from the Gremlins. And
oh my God! I feel an AI image coming later. Yeah, keep going. You're doing good.
Would you believe? Because I like to talk with law enforcement in Seattle. I love to thank them because I don't know how they do it. I've spoken with the recruiters there. They're giving them ample money, but the young guys, as they say, the young guys are too afraid to police. The senior guys, they're ready to check out. So this is why ICE is coming through. Now to get to the entertainment side. By the way, 4 police officers in one beat. What's the beat? The city of Seattle all the way down to Ballard. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
4 police officers in that area. Scary stuff. Okay. So let's talk about Dave Matthews from the Dave Matthews Band, who lives in Wallingford, who has posted a bunch of social media, who's out there with the people with the signs from the river to the sea. By the way, I'm proud to tell you I'm in the tribe as well, and I heard you had a nice trip to our homeland. And speaking of that, that is something else that Trump has done a wonderful job at, is bringing that peace to the Middle East. But back to the entertainment side, back to Dave Matthews. Very, very disappointed in him, and I challenge him to take the public transportation from Wallingford over to downtown Seattle and purchase McDonald's from the corner of 3rd and Pine. Not only will I pay for his McDonald's meal if he can get through those folks that hang out at the corner, I am telling you on the show, I will make a $10,000 donation to hit the charity of his choice, as long as it's not anti-Israel, anti-Jew. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for listening to that rant.
I'll tell you something, Kevin, there's a great article by intrepid reporter Jessica Hoffman over at Jewish News Syndicate about Dave Matthews and his insanity and the fact that he comes out for every cause. And then when he comes out loudly on stage for whatever cause it is, notice the ones he doesn't, and he sends private letters about that he doesn't post on his social media. If you email me, ari@kvi.com, I will send you a link to that. But what you're talking about is most recently he's been coming out against ICE. And he's talking about how much he doesn't like ICE. Well, guess what, buddy? I know you came here illegally, but there's plenty of people who didn't. And the people who protect you, like Trooper Christopher Gadd, now he's dead because of an illegal alien who came into this country. And you know what, dude? You should understand that you were privileged enough to get citizenship in this country, and not everybody is, because you did everything right all these people did everything wrong, and they're making it harder for people who want to come to this country legally like your family did. Kevin, great call. Appreciate the challenge. Appreciate you being part of the show. Drop me that email at arikvi.com. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including the Golden Globes were last night, and you may not have even known. We'll fill you in on what you may have missed of this liberal insanity when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. By the way, I had no idea the Golden Globes were last night. Had no clue. Not those Golden Globes. You know how I found out the Golden Globes were happening? I saw Ricky Gervais was trending. And I thought to myself, oh, did he say something funny? Did he say something controversial? And I clicked on it. And what happened? Everything popped up with that clip that he did, 5, 6, 7 years ago now at this point, where he completely toasted everybody in Hollywood from the Golden Globes. That's it. I didn't actually watch the show. What I did watch, I can't believe I'm going to admit this. What I did watch was the red carpet because I want to see what causes were on display, not what they're wearing. I don't care what they're wearing. Clearly, I have very little fashion sense. I only work in black and sometimes very, very, very dark gray. But the celebrities are all wearing these pins. No ice. Be good. a reference to Renee Good. Now, the one who was leading the charge, Mark Ruffalo, who, by the way, I know he's in a lot of things I enjoy, but he's always the same character, Mark Ruffalo. That's who he plays in everything. You can hear it in this interview.
This is for her. This is for the people in the United States who are terrorized and scared today. I know I'm one of them. I love this country, and what I'm seeing here happening is not America. It's just not.
Mark, why do you feel that this platform is still useful to spread a message like this?
Listen, I want to pretend like this is, I want to be here to celebrate, and I am here to celebrate, and I'm proud to have a Golden Globe nomination. But also, this is not normal anymore. And so I don't know how I could be quiet. And I'm feeling a little sick, so it's hard to BS right now. So
I love how the reporter who's covering the red carpet of the Golden Globes is basically asking, hey, nobody's watching this stuff anymore. Why do you think it's useful to promote your political garbage on the red carpet? When you get called out by Jennifer Lawrence, who's definitely on the left, when you get called out by her, I don't think a lot of people are watching this when she's identifying that nobody's listening to you guys anymore.
I don't really know if I should. I think, like, the first Trump administration was so wild, and just how can we let this stand? Like, I felt like I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But as we've learned, election after election, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for.
Exactly. And nobody's watching your silly award shows anymore. They're just not. The Hollywood elites, they think everybody's always listening, and nobody actually is. I don't know anybody who watched the Golden Globes last night, except for me watching the red carpet. Can't believe that. When we come back, my friends, it's a new session in the legislature. What craziness is being cooked up that's going to cost you more money? We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, public school enrollment is down again in Washington State. And what insanity do they have cooking up for us in the legislature right now? But before we get to any of that, we go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from our frenemy, Bennett the protester. Bennett, Happy New Year. Where you been, man?
Oh, Happy New Year. Wow, stuff piles up quickly when we take 2 weeks off from each other, doesn't it? I was helping my aunt move, and I was like, can I take a break at 3 o'clock and just call into this guy I argue with on the internet all the time? She's like, how about no?
What's on your mind, man? What's going on?
Well, I know you talked a lot about the shooting. I want to zoom out from that a little bit and talk again about like why people would be so passionate about this, to put themselves in the position of protesting this. And I've tried to make this argument here before, but I think it would be clearer without an analogy. I'm saying specifically, it doesn't make any sense to go after criminals, even violent criminals, just within a subset of the population, like undocumented immigrants. Now, every time I say this, you say, but it's not about Mexicans. And I understand that. I understand they're not targeting the ethnic demographic. They're going after violent criminals within the subset of undocumented immigrants. I'm still saying that makes no sense. Why not go after people in priority order, for worst first, regardless of immigration status? What am I missing?
Okay. Let me make a little case here, and I don't speak for ICE. We're clear about that, right? I don't speak for ICE. What we know is that if ICE has to go into a community, they likely don't want to make multiple trips. So if they're going there for one thing, they're going to go there for more things. We said at the beginning of this that if this continues and ICE has to go into communities, because the police are not allowed to release the ones from the jails into ICE custody and just release them to the streets, and ICE has to go get them, it's going to get worse. Would you agree with that?
I mean, but I still don't understand what is the goal of doing that. Why are you prioritizing, for example, why are you even in your sort of modified version where you've said maybe if somebody just comes into the country and they've just been living their best life and not hurting anybody.
I never said that. Maybe. Hang on, Bennett. I never said that.
You have at least once said we could do that. You said maybe we could agree to something where we only go after criminals, but not people who just came into the country and are trying to build life.
That's what you're talking
about. I do remember you said at one point you might consider that, but I'm saying even in that modified version, the question is, why are you prioritizing going after an undocumented person who committed a simple assault above, for example, going after a U.S. citizen who committed a murder? Why are we prioritizing going after violent criminals only within a subset of the population?
Hang on. Bennett, I'm going to give you a little advice. I want you to do what I do. Yep. Okay? I'm very serious about this, okay? I want you to sign up for the Department of Homeland Security. I want you to sign up for the Department of Justice, and I want you to sign up for ICE's newsletters. Because I see everybody they go after. I'm not seeing one type. I see they go after violent criminals, whether they're American citizens, whether they're not American citizens. Now, the things you're hearing about in the news are the things the news wants to magnify. I get press releases all day long, except for when there was the government shutdown, and I really enjoy my press releases. Mike knows I love my press releases. My wife knows I love my press releases because I love seeing criminals get arrested. I highly recommend you sign up for all those. You don't have to be media to get them. Just sign up for their news releases, and you'll see what I see. It's not restricted to just illegal aliens.
Okay, but even if it's not like if they occasionally charge somebody who's not undocumented,
not occasionally, not occasionally. Not occasionally. The FBI, you're seeing what they do with U.S. citizens. You're looking at the ICE stuff. I'm looking at everybody's stuff. You really want to get crazy? Sign up for the IRS's stuff and the Treasury stuff. That's when you see all the American citizens they're going after.
But why have any department or any sort of mission statement at all about prioritizing criminals just within a subset of the population?
Well, because ICE's role is to go. Hang on, ICE's role is to go after illegal aliens. Their job is not to go after U.S. citizens. That's the Department of Justice.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but what is the point? Why not just go after everybody worse first without regard to immigration status? I'm saying there's no rational case for going after
I think you're operating
just people
under
in
a false pretense here, Bennett. which is you think they're not doing both simultaneously. I'm saying they are. I think that's the problem. I'm agreeing with you. You should go after the worst first, whether they're a U.S. citizen or a non-U.S. citizen. I'm completely agreeing with you. But the press releases I get from the Department of Justice, from different districts around the U.S., because I'm subscribed to a lot of them, I see the other people they're going after, and they're always the worst of the worst.
Well, I understand the Department of Justice does. And that's why we're not saying abolish the Department of Justice. I mean, other than some of the fringe people that I used to associate with who want either anarchy or at least abolishing the police and abolishing law enforcement, I think most of the people who are on the abolish ICE train are not talking about abolishing all law enforcement. We actually are saying we want to go after murderers and rapists in priority order, worse first. But why not do that instead of focusing on people within a subset? I'm just saying.
Let me make this point here. Let me make this point here, Bennett, because I think this has been a fun conversation. Let me make this point here, is that regarding the people we go after in Seattle, they release violent criminals all the time. In King County, they release violent criminals all the time. In Washington State, they release violent criminals all the time. And I know you're saying you want them caught and you don't want them released and you want them prosecuted. But I don't agree with you that a lot of people on the other side of me, I'm not putting them in with you because I know you're your own subset, okay? Do not believe a lot of people should be in jail. And I think that when they're talking about defunding, they actually mean it. When they're talking about abolishing, they actually mean it because they don't want a lot of these laws enforced. I'll give you the last word, then I got to run.
Okay. Well, I will use my last word to say there's no particular reason this has to be done in like serialized 2-minute chunks where I'm like, okay, I'll call in tomorrow and I'll respond to the thing you said next. Have you ever thought about just like, put me in the studio with you at 4:30 on a Friday. We'll just go at it. We'll watch the phone lines light up. People can yell at me.
I'll tell you what.
Call in and yell at me anyway, but I won't
I'll tell you what,
anyway.
Bennett, I got a better idea. I think this sounds like something we do on the internet. I think that sounds like something we do, and then we take live comments while we do it. In fact, I know I said I'd give you the last word. A press release just popped up in my mailbox, and you're going to laugh at which one it is, okay? This is one that just popped into my email. Mississippi man arrested for arson of Beth Israel and the Gold Ring Woldenberg Institute of Southern Jewish Life. White guy. This is the kind of stuff, U.S. citizen, white guy. This literally just popped into my inbox right now as we're speaking. I highly recommend you get on these lists. Bennett, always appreciate the conversation, appreciate the call, appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, my friends, a new legislative cycle has started. And really, we know what this is going to be about. Taxes. The Democrats want to continue their out-of-control spending, so they're going to hit you with as many taxes as they possibly can. Here is House Republican leader Drew Stokesbury saying exactly that.
Tariffs don't explain why Washington has the second highest gas price of any state in the country. Tariffs don't explain why Washington has the fourth highest grocery prices of any state in the country. Tariffs don't explain why Washington has the fourth highest housing prices of any state in the country. Tariffs don't explain why Washington has the seventh most costly child care of any state in the country. Washington is uniquely expensive compared to nearly every other state. That is not a result of the federal policies. Federal policies don't target Washington. Washington state's policies target Washington. It is a result of decades of single-party governance that has resulted in Washington becoming more and more unaffordable. So House Republicans will be focused on providing relief to ordinary Washingtonians, things like reducing the sales tax on prepared food, finding ways where Washingtonians can find some relief in their wallets.
Exactly. This has nothing to do with President Trump. This has everything to do with the Democrats in Olympia trying to make your lives more expensive. To pay for what exactly? Somalian daycares that are empty? To pay for laser hair removal for trans inmates, to pay for boob jobs for trans inmates, to pay for art studios where men can go pleasure each other. That's what they're spending your money on. God bless Chris Daniels from Como News, by the way, because he went to this day they have for the media where people get to ask questions from the media of high-ranking lawmakers. And Chris Daniels was asking about the Somali fraud. Now, he put together this montage on Como News about different lawmakers responding to the allegations and what they're going to do about it. Even if you don't know who they are, and you're going to hear voices you recognize like Drew Stokesbury and John Braun and Travis Couture, you are going to be able to tell which ones are Republicans and which ones are Democrats from this montage.
DCYF has acknowledged in the last year an overpayment of $2 million. Polling on our air at Como TV suggests that people want an outside audit. Do you support an outside audit of DCYF? And if not, why?
DCYF kind of has the reverse King Midas touch. Everything they touch turns to crap. What it seems like to me is that, you know, they were dishing out payments to providers and maybe asking questions later.
If those accountability and measurement metrics aren't adequate enough, then it would be worth looking at.
If there's any agency that we should increase funding to, it would be the state auditor, because we're going to get a return on that investment.
Of course, nobody wants fraud. Nobody wants people who are not playing by the rules to receive state funding.
These suggestions about fraud with really no basis yet. Listen, every person in Washington state is entitled to make sure that we have well-running, functioning government systems. We have a state auditor who audits our agencies every year and has many times pointed out areas for improvement. But when you look at our child care system, DCYF itself has done a number of audits. Last year, they did 29,000 consumer audits. They did 1,400 provider audits, finding no widespread abuse. Now, you can ask the state auditor to go ahead and check on that, but to cavalierly suggest that there is some kind of fraud going on when we have been doing that kind of work, I think is unfair to child care providers. It's unfair to the people who are receiving child care in this state. It's unfair to our kids, and it's unfair to the agencies who are working very hard to provide great services to Washingtonians.
Would you support an outside audit? And if the answer is no, why not?
And as you know, Chris, take fraud pretty seriously. We literally send someone to each child care provider in person every single year, at least one time a year. That happens every year in our state.
That is a flat out lie. That does not happen. You know how I know that? Lori Jenkins, who's a Speaker of the House, just said we only did 1,400 in-person reviews. There's a lot more daycares than that. You are lying. Why is Lori Jenkins and Bob Ferguson trying so hard to say we're not going to do an audit? We don't need to do an audit. You know, just a few weeks ago, they were saying in Minnesota we don't need to do an audit, and then Nick Shirley's video of the Quality Leering Center comes out, and now everybody realizes they need to do an audit. You know, it's funny. Just because I don't post every place that you send me, I've been looking into a lot of the places that you guys have been tipping me off about. You know what I found the past couple days? Kristen Mag sent me some things to look into. She sent me 2 locations which have banners. I can't read the banners because they're falling down off the house that they're on. Would you send your children to a place which can't even keep their sign up on the location? Would you send your kids to a place which looks like a serial killer lives there because they haven't mowed their lawn in forever? You're worried about your kid getting ticks? Do we have ticks out here in this part of the country? We don't have them. That's an East Coast thing, right? But you don't know what's in those weeds. You don't know what's in those bushes. Would you send your kid to that? Just from the appearances alone outside? Why are they so desperate? So desperate not to investigate the fraud. As we say time and time again, the easiest way to shut me up is to say, we did an audit. Hoffman is wrong. Hoffman is lying. Here's why. Why won't they do the audit? Because likely they know what it will reveal. For example, Washington Policy Center did a great video on some of the things they've found out going into this legislative cycle. Before they start taxing you to close their multi-billion-dollar budget gap, maybe they should know what they spent it on.
Largest county in the state has its own headaches. They apparently have misplaced $1.8 billion. Maybe they should look in the seat cushions or something and find out where that went. But the Department of Community and Human Services issued grants in 2023, 2024. A new audit shows in which they don't know where this money went. Much of it went to recipients that were not authorized to receive it. They paid invoices and didn't get receipts for that. Documentation was actually altered when this money was distributed. It went to programs like healing racism grants, family intervention grants, restorative community pathways, kind of gobbledygook sometimes. That's hard to tell exactly what this money is being spent for, even if it were being spent legitimately. So the auditor's report in King County is fairly damning on where this money went. What is the response from our leadership? It's pretty weak. They have not implemented the formal recommendations of the King County auditor, number one. Number two, and most importantly, nobody got fired. Nobody lost their job. There has been no impact on the political careers of people who serve on the King County Council. Dow Constantine, the former King County executive under whose watch this happened, has moved on to a lucrative career as the director of Sound Transit. And so everybody gets rewarded when $1.8 billion disappeared and was wasted. So the result of that is zero accountability. And all the nonprofit groups that receive this money, of course, they have every incentive to provide political support to Democrats or elected officials who keep the money flowing. That's the real circular scandal that's going on with the way public money is used. The only true accountability can come from the voters, that someone is voted out of office or that there's a change in direction of the government of the county.
This is why I love the Washington Policy Center and why we love our friend Paul Guppy who made that video. Because $2 billion is missing and they don't know where it went, according to their own audit of a government agency. And now they're asking you to close Mike, I lost track how much they're asking for this time. It started off as $1 billion, almost $1 billion. Then it was $2 billion. Then it was $4 billion. Next thing you know, it'll be $20 billion. They don't know where the money went. When you apply for a loan, they want every documentation on everything you've ever touched in your life. You want a mortgage? You want a car? They want to know that you're going to be able to pay back that loan. Government has no kinds of accountability because you're not getting paid back and they can recklessly spend however they want, and there's no accountability except at the ballot box, which was the point Paul Guppy was making from the Washington Policy Center. How about before Washington State takes more of our money for ridiculous things to spend it on, they find out where the money is going? By the way, they should have done this before the legislative cycle. And this isn't just something limited to Washington State. Every time we have a city council member on this show, I ask about an audit. And they always say yes, and I've never seen an audit of Homeless Inc. I'm most disappointed in Mark Solomon because he was a temp. He wasn't going to get to run again. I didn't see any audits. If I'm incorrect, send me that audit. Show me the audit of Homeless Inc. We are wasting billions of dollars, and things are only getting worse. How about before you guys tax us, you show us where the money's actually going? And don't call those of us who are showing people where the money's actually going liars and racists and vigilantes, because we're doing the jobs you guys should be doing. When we come back, my friends, it's getting so much worse in the Washington State legislature. This issue of boys competing in girls' sports, Dems do not like when you bring it up. And in fact, some threaten you with death threats. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. That way you never miss a minute of the show. Don't forget to rate and share so that way your friends and people you don't even know will know that they should be listening to and enjoy all the fun. Well, there was some contentious moments at this media event I told you about in the last segment down in Olympia on Friday, where the media shows up and gets to ask questions of high-profile people in Washington state government. Our friend Brandy Cruz went down there, and they were not happy to see her on any topic because she asks the questions that most other journalists won't ask, because so many journalists these days are just parrots for whatever press releases are being sent out by the Democrats. So one of the first things Brandy was asking about was this whole, why won't the Washington legislature take up the initiatives, the Let's Go Washington initiatives to keep boys out of girls' sports and to protect parental rights? They took up the parental rights one before. Why won't they take it up now? Odds are because they want it as a campaign issue and they want to demonize Republicans over it. So Brandy called out this nonsense they use all the time about medical exams, invasive medical exams for sports. Guys, we've told you 1,000 times. If you want to play sports in Washington state, you have to go to your pediatrician, get a letter, and then you can play in high school sports, grade school sports, whatever the case may be. And guess what they do during those exams? That's right, they check for hernias and all the other things you don't want to do when you go to the doctor, but they do that. So this lie about, oh, the school nurse is going to be performing exams, oh, your coach is going to want to be performing exams is nonsense. Brandy called him out on that, and they were not happy about this at all, specifically not Speaker Lori Jenkins.
Lie that's been repeated over and over, and even the Washington State Department of Health, the Association for Pediatrics, every major medical institution in the state says this is part of a regular well exam and a physical exam for student athletes, that they have to have a physical examination. So who are you accusing of potentially inflicting improper genital exams on girls? Are you suggesting doctors are doing this? Are you suggesting coaches are doing this?
I'm suggesting that the initiative requires this. And so your statements and your position on the initiative will be something that the voters can take into account. And, I mean, you can make your political case on it.
The initiative does not say anything about this whatsoever. This is going to be one of the lies they're going to push, and she thinks it's a winner at the ballot box, which is why Lori Jenkins is saying that.
That's my interpretation of the initiative is what I've said, and I think that there are plenty of folks who've looked objectively at the initiative, and that's what it would require.
I invite anybody to look up the initiative. Don't listen to me or read it to you. Look up the initiative and tell me where exactly it says that. All it says, biological males cannot play in girls' sports. That's it. Look it up for yourselves. What is she talking about here? But this is what they're going to do throughout the entire campaign. They're going to dump millions of dollars into this. Literally millions of dollars. In fact, Bob Ferguson let his mask slip. We were talking to a coworker today who was telling us how friendly Bob Ferguson is, especially compared to Jay Inslee. I believe Bob Ferguson is one of the most evil, vindictive people in Washington state, if not the U.S. Yes, I actually believe that. He is conniving, he is evil, and he will destroy you if he can. We saw that mask slip when Brandy asked Bob Ferguson about, hey, your own daughter is in private schools and she doesn't have to deal with that. Would you want her playing against boys? Give a listen.
I want to be delicate with this, but since you've made it public, you talk a lot about your own daughter and her participation in athletics publicly. I know she goes to a private school. Would you support a biological boy competing against your own child?
Oh, Brandy, forgot. Look, I understand your obsession.
With what?
With trans kids. And so what I would say is that, obsession. And so what I would say is, look, we live in a world right now where trans kids are going through a lot. Okay? And so I want to support trans kids. We have a federal government that essentially wants to erase that community. I'm diametrically opposed to that. So appreciate the question, but I'm ready for the next one.
Can you give a yes or no on it?
Next question.
Next question. Doesn't want to answer the question. Doesn't want to answer if he wants his own daughter. And you know what? It's not off limits because this guy posts about his kids all the time on his government page. In fact, even that video where he got hit in the arm by a baseball by his daughter, that shows why boys shouldn't play in girls' sports. But in all seriousness, though, he saw that mask slipped when he said, yes, obsession. You should look at the video of it itself. Yes, obsession. It falls right off and you see the evilness there. Then he also did the same thing to Carleen Johnson. Carleen Johnson was trying to get a question in. It looks like he didn't want to. We're going to have Carleen Johnson on at 5:20 today to hear her version of what happened. But she was asking, hey, you had Tim Walz out here for a fundraiser and now he's resigning. You feel badly about that? What do you think about this? And he ended the press conference.
Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Happy New Year, everybody. Appreciate it.
Governor Ferguson, is there any regret to having Governor Walz out, given what's happening with him?
Appreciate
It's
you.
your big fundraiser?
Nice
No comment, huh? Okay.
Okay, cool.
I'm out of here. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. Didn't want to answer that question. We all remember that fundraiser last month. Guys, this is the Democrats. They don't want to be called on anything. They don't know what to do with themselves. I'm shocked they still have this event. I am absolutely shocked they still have this event where members of the media can come and ask them questions, but they know they got 60 days in the legislative session. They won't have Brandy there every day. Carleen Johnson gets there a lot of times, but she doesn't get to ask a question every single day. They know that Chris Daniels isn't going to be there every single day, so they can do what they want in the legislative session without anybody calling them out on it at all. And the crazy thing is they think they can win at the ballot box with all this. They think this is a winning message. This is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. If you thought the fight was about getting signatures for these initiatives, the fight has only just begun, my friends. We're going to keep tabs on everything insane going on in the Washington legislature for you right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. When we come back, my friends, Representative Drew Stokesbury, the House Republican leader, will tell us exactly what the Democrats' crazy plans are. That and so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, a new legislative cycle has begun in Olympia today, which means what kind of trouble are the Democrats going to find for all of us? Higher taxes, less affordability, but I repeat myself, we'll see what they have in store. Joining us now to discuss, Republican leader Drew Stokesbury. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ari.
Such a pleasure. So let's start with the big ticket item, which is Democrats' out of control spending. So they want to do a state income tax. This thing is going to be held up in court for years after they pass it. So it's not going to solve the short term. So is this just an excuse? I mean, at this point, it just seems ridiculous that people would actually fall for this.
Yeah, this is the result of sort of a years long, to their credit, successful campaign by progressive Democrats to get this front and center. For years, Republicans would sort of say Democrats support an income tax, and most Democrats would say, and Democrat leadership would say, oh, no, we don't. That's just Republican fear mongering, and it's just a few fringe lefties that want it. All the meanwhile, they were slowly building support behind the scenes, both in terms of persuading other Democrats to support the idea. And, whenever a former legislator would leave and they replace him with somebody else, find new legislators to come in that support the idea. And now it is front and center. You've got the governor, the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, all saying we should start talking about a state income tax. So, Washingtonians should be terrified.
So perhaps it's time to go on the offense, because when you're in the minority, the impulse is to be on the defense. So maybe going on the offense is everything that Doge Washington found and everything that everybody like me and Brandy Cruz and Jonathan Cho and everybody else found, and just hit them with that, politically speaking, of course, no violence, of course, we're not the left, and just say they want a state income tax, but they're paying for laser hair removal for trans inmates, for boob surgeries for trans inmates, for art studios that are not art studios where men can go do things I can't talk about on the radio. Maybe we just hit them with that kind of stuff rather than waiting for the next shoe to drop and try and win the argument with the people of Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. Every year, the couple days before session, there's a big media forum where reporters get to come ask questions of the legislative leaders. And that was one of the things that I mentioned on Friday, is that, taxes should be the absolute last resort. We got to start looking at where this money is going. And we're not doing a very good job of that. Every year for the last several budget cycles, the state has spent more money than it's taken in. Of course, we're going to be running out of money when you consistently spend more money than you bring in. And until we've made sure that there's no Somali daycare fraud in Washington, and when we find it, we've cut it out, then we've got no business telling honest, law-abiding Washingtonians that they're going to have to pay higher taxes when we're not even willing to solve our own budget problems and our own, spending problems.
Yeah. We're talking with Washington State House Republican leader Drew Stokesbury, and you bring up the Somalian fraud. And it seems like the Democrats don't even want to admit it's happening. In fact, they'd rather attack people like me for exposing it, which is beyond crazy. I would assume you guys know more about where to look. For example, I didn't know about the Washington State checkbook until somebody in the legislature said, hey, Ari, this thing's online. Now everybody knows about it. So there's other places where we could be checking, but do you think it might be worth taking a few interns or a few pages who are around on the Republican side and saying, hey, get this stuff out to the media, tell them to go look in these places, or here's the stuff, get it out there and show it to everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned the state's open checkbook. There's a lot of resources at fiscal.wa.gov that the public can look into. One of our members, you know him well, I think your listeners probably know him too, Travis Couture, is the ranking Republican on the Appropriations Committee. He has two bills to sort of get after this problem, and he introduced these bills last session before anybody had heard the phrase Somali daycare scam. He was already saying, hey, we should be looking around and doing a good job to make sure that this money is going to where it's intended, which is to help families be able to afford the shockingly expensive childcare in Washington. I mean, we've got our state has the country's seventh most expensive childcare. So we want this money to do good things and make childcare affordable. But if it's not doing that, if we're being defrauded, we should find that out. And it should be a no-brainer. I mentioned that I had flagged this at the media availability last week, and the speaker got really upset about it. She sort of said, how dare you, allege that this could even be happening? which is a crazy response because, you ask any other profession, I'm a lawyer, right? I want shady lawyers to get disbarred. Doctors want bad doctors to lose their medical license. Police officers want dirty cops to not be a police officer. You don't want to have a professional colleague that brings shame to your profession. You want the fraud and the misbehavior rooted out. So why would childcare providers be any different? Of course, honest childcare providers don't want other childcare providers running scams and stealing taxpayer money. It does nobody disservice. So why on earth the state wouldn't want to get to the bottom of this? If there's no fraud, great. Let's prove to ourselves there is no fraud, and let's assure the public there is no fraud. If there is fraud, then let's find it and get rid of it. Either way, we should be investigating it, and I don't understand why you wouldn't want to find that out.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We're talking with House Republican leader Drew Stokesbury, and we get so bogged down in what bad things the Democrats are proposing. We sometimes forget about the good things Republicans are proposing. So aside from fighting the stuff that the Democrats are doing, like calling for investigations and getting rid of fraud, what are other things you have your eye on that are Republican priorities that we think can get past this session?
Yeah, there's a couple ideas that we've been pushing for the last several years. I mean, look, we'd love to just cut everybody's taxes, cut a sales tax for everybody. The current political reality makes a big, broad-based sales tax cut harder than it needs to be. So in the meantime, we've been proposing some targeted reductions that look at specific items. One of those is what's called prepared food. When you go buy groceries, an apple, a box of cereal, you don't pay sales tax on groceries if it's sort of a raw ingredient. But if you buy prepared food, which actually at the grocery store, sometimes you run into this, like at the salad bar, the deli, whatever. Certainly if you go to McDonald's drive-through, Jack in the Box drive-through, you're charged sales tax on all that. And with Washington being as unaffordable as it is, and add to the list, we have the country's #1 most expensive prices at chain restaurants. So, we're talking the Wendy's and the Burger King and the McDonald's. Our prices at those kinds of establishments are higher than even places like California and Hawaii. In this day and age, you've got parents with a lot of kids trying to schlep them between sports practices, things like that. We can't expect everybody to be able to have the time or money or ability to make these gourmet home-cooked meals. These families are just going to grab some fast food from time to time, and they shouldn't be taxed for doing so. Another product that we're trying to get rid of the sales tax on is diapers. Every family with a newborn needs to buy diapers. Why should we charge sales tax on that? So, we're looking for some targeted sales tax reductions. Another one, Washington is consistently in the top 5 for most expensive states for housing. We have been trying to create the ability for builders to build more supply. I mean, the laws of supply and demand are not this right-wing fever dream. It's just how the world works. The more housing supply we can build, the lower the housing prices will be. And so one of the problems right now is from sort of start to finish, it just takes a long time to build a house, in part because of how many permitting delays there are. So we've got a bill to try to allow professional, qualified engineers and architects to be able to approve permits if the city or county hasn't done so within some reasonable amount of time, to try to make it a little easier to go from breaking ground to actually giving somebody the chance to move into a new house.
That all sounds great. I mean, that sounds like the kind of stuff that can make a huge difference. And unfortunately, it's all the crazy stuff that's taking up all the ink. So I really hope that people appreciate the stuff you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that wants to go to houserepublicans.wa.gov can find a whole slate of bills that Republicans are proposing. And also, too, they can see the list of the worst Democrat bills as well. Hopefully the public will chime in on those and email their own legislators to talk about the bills they like and the bills they don't like, because a lot of legislators really need to hear from regular people.
House Republican leader Drew Stokesbury, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for fighting so hard on behalf of the people here in Washington. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ari. Thanks for covering what we do. People need to see what the politicians are up to in Olympia.
I completely agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. the Washington State Legislature is going to give more funding to schools this cycle. They're going to say it's about the children, it's about the children, except the children aren't in the schools. Don't take it from me. Take it from the Seattle Times. Hang on. I don't remember having the Seattle Times in my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. Let's go through this a second here. Let's see. I got Fox News, Newsmax, Daily Caller, Daily Wire. I do not have the Seattle Times. In fact, where's my other book on the shelf here? Ah, yes, The Maoist, Little Red Book. I think I have them in here somewhere. Here's what the Seattle Times says. The number of students in Washington's public schools fell by 9,000 this school year, the biggest single-year drop since enrollment began emerging from pandemic-era lows, according to new state data shared Thursday. Whoa. Mike, I seem to recall last year them telling us, oh, we fixed it. See, we're back on the upswing. We're going to be fine. See? Do you remember what happened the last year? In 2024, you had the Seattle Public Schools said we want to close a whole bunch of schools because we don't have enough kids. And then parents went ballistic. Not my school, not my school, not my school. So instead of closing the schools, what did they do? They went to the legislature and said, can you give us money? They basically did the things from Parks and Rec. Money, please. That's what they did. And what happened? Washington State Legislature gave it to them, even though their enrollment continues to drop. Statewide, public school enrollment is about 50,000 students lower than it was in the 2019-2020 school year, when COVID-19 upended society and schools. Not entirely accurate. I would say it was the closures in reaction to COVID-19 by unions, by schools, by Democrats that did it. The ongoing decline is concerning for school districts whose funding is generally tied to enrollment. Some districts have already had to make budget cuts, while others are considering adding new programs to bring back students who've left public school system for private schools, homeschooling, and other alternatives. Last year, in October, 1,096 million Washington students were enrolled in pre-kindergarten through 12th grade, according to data from the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. That's down from 1.105 million students enrolled in 2024-2025. Do you think maybe all this insanity you have with boys playing against girls and DEI and Antifa banners and BLM banners in the classroom might be affecting things? You guys want to save money? You know the easiest thing to cut? DEI. It's the easiest thing to get rid of, and it's taking up classroom hours. And if it's taking up classroom hours, the kids aren't learning math, science, history, anything, STEM, any of this other stuff, because they're learning this DEI insanity, and they're spending millions of dollars on it. Enrollment fell in some of the state's largest districts, including Kent, Seattle, Tacoma, Vancouver. Enrollment at Seattle Public Schools this year is down about 280. Do you remember last year? They said, we're up 14, a net positive of 14. And I said, somebody's math is off here. We're going to do like Joe Biden revisions to the employment numbers. That's what we're going to do coming next. In 2024, Seattle is considered closing schools, in part because of falling enrollment, but scrapped the plan after significant parent pushback. The incoming kindergarten class remains smaller than the outgoing 12th grade class. That means you're not replacing the kids you're losing every single year. And I know this not just from the Seattle Times, not just from the Superintendent of Public Instruction, but anybody who lives near me, who listens to the show, you know that the Graham Hill School is near our house. It's a Seattle public school. It used to be considered one of the top elementary schools in the Seattle public school system. Have you noticed it's a lot easier to get past it during drop-off and dismissal every day now? Because there's not as many cars going. The last time I looked at their numbers, they were down something like 40%. That's why they were on the school closure list. But you had a whole bunch of people freak out and saying, I don't want my kids going to those schools down on Rainier Avenue, so you better keep my kids' school open. They can't afford to continue like this. The other thing I noticed about the Graham Hill School, They have 3 flags flying at all times from their school building: the American flag, the Washington State flag, and the Seattle flag. Wait, Seattle doesn't have a flag. Which one is it? That's right, that rainbow-colored one with a few other weird symbols in it that really don't go well together at all. So maybe if you guys dump that nonsense, you'll get more students back. People are saying, why are we sending our kids to private school? Because it's worth it, even if we have to work 2 jobs, even if the wife has to get 2 jobs, whatever the case may be, because we don't want you brainwashing our kids anymore. You want to save some money? Dump DEI or whatever you're calling it these days to try and avoid a Trump investigation. The people are voting with their feet, and they're telling you they don't want to enroll in these garbage schools anymore. They've had it, so they're yanking their kids out. It'd be one thing if it was just COVID, which is how they tried to play it for years. Tried to blame it on COVID and not look at the activism that's been exposed in all the schools. Not look at the stories coast to coast where Seattle is always a poster child of the insanity happening in the public schools. Gee, maybe if you didn't have a teacher who hung up posters of Hamas terrorists on your classroom walls, maybe you wouldn't have problems like this. Maybe if you didn't have teachers that tried to convince kids to go to Antifa and BLM rallies and take them there as field trips, you wouldn't have these problems. That's what's going on in the public schools. It's so easy to fix, and they won't do it because they're committed to their ideology. And now we're on the hook for bailing them out. They complain about corporate bailouts. I complain about public school bailouts. When we come back, my friends, do you believe that the U.S. should get involved in what's going on in Iran? I want to hear from you. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, a park in Seattle, which officials are warned about the drug addicts, has to be torn down because addicts burned a part of it to the ground. But before we get to any of that, my friends, we got this other thing going on in Iran. And I know a lot of people say, I don't want U.S. boots on the ground. I completely respect that. I completely understand that. What do you want to do instead? Now, before we answer that question, and before we take your calls, and before we take your texts at 206-421-5757, that's 206-421-5757, where are all the protesters against the Ayatollah? I don't mean the ones in Iran. There's tons of those going on right now. In fact, this has been going on for over a week now. Why is it happening? Because the Iranian economy is basically collapsing. Because of what President Trump is doing overseas, the Iranian economy is collapsing. Their dollar's worth almost nothing. So, you want to get rid of the Ayatollahs? You want to get rid of this regime that has said death to America? This is how you do it without putting boots on the ground. What you do is you say, we're going to destroy their economy. We're going to make them a global pariah, and if you do business with them, you will suffer. So, go after the oil. Go after their economy. This is how you do it. Where are all the people on campuses? I heard at University of Washington today, there's a massive encampment set up right there on the quad for the protesters. Free Iran. That's not happening? Oh, that's not happening. What about all the people blocking freeways and blocking the airport to free Iran? Oh, that's not happening. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? That's right, the left is siding with the Ayatollah. They don't support these protests that are going on where people are risking their lives to go against the Ayatollah. The official death count in Iran is somewhere around 500 by human rights organizations. The likely death count is somewhere in the thousands. We don't know because there's been an internet blackout. Elon Musk is doing his absolute best to try and give Starlink to that country so that people can actually get on the internet, organize, get the images out of the crackdowns. But it's slow going. It's tough. God bless Elon Musk for doing that. So, if you don't want U.S. boots on the ground in Iran, which I completely understand, and you don't have the global support of people protesting against the Ayatollah, you wonder how crazy it is? This weekend, there were protests in the Seattle area by Iranian Americans against the Ayatollah. That's right. There were some. There were a few. And you have white leftist activists protesting the protesters. So you want the Ayatollah? So let me just clarify this. In the first 12 days of 2026, leftists has sided with the Ayatollah, a narco-terrorist dictator, Maduro. They've sided with Somalian fraudsters. They've sided with Tren de Aragua gang members. They've sided with basically anybody who's anti-American, anybody who's anti-life. They've sided with some of the absolute worst people. The worst people. So now this very diverse group of white people is telling Iranian Americans, no, we support the Ayatollah. Are you kidding me with that? So, what do you suggest we do instead? Look, I don't want boots on the ground either. I don't want to risk U.S. blood and treasure, as it's called, in a conflict in Iran. So go after their economy instead. What is the only thing Iran exports of significance? Oil. Go after their oil tankers. And when they can't afford to pay their troops anymore and their police anymore, you're going to see the crackdown end. Now, what happens afterwards? Who becomes the ruler of Iran? What kind of government they set up? That's a problem, but you got to let those people figure it out yourselves because nation building, we're not real good at that. We're really, really not. I still don't know the plan for what's going to happen in Venezuela. But let's not forget, the Iranian regime is the #1 state sponsor of terror around the world. They have killed hundreds of Americans. They want to kill millions of Americans through their nuclear program. So they got to go. But we don't want to do a full-scale invasion of Iran. That would be very, very bloody, be very, very expensive, and didn't work out real well in Iraq or anywhere else. So going after their economy is the right move. Do you agree with me that we should go after the oil? Hey, that's a cheap way to replenish the oil reserves. Just take all their tankers, refill our oil reserves. President Trump could do it a lot cheaper than Joe Biden. Let's go do that. I think that's the way to go. Now let me ask you a question. Do you support targeted airstrikes going after the regime, going after police departments, which aren't police, you know, they're cracking down on the protesters, going after government buildings? Do you support that? Look, the strike on the nuclear facilities at Fordow and elsewhere in Iran, that made sense because they were saying death to America. We're going to use these nuclear weapons on America. That was a clear and present danger. That was a direct threat to the U.S., our allies, and our interests. But is what's going on with the protesters a direct threat to us? Can you rationalize that? So let me ask you a question. Do you think we should go after the oil? Do you think we should do targeted airstrikes? Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I'm very curious what you guys think about this, because for me, I like the idea of going after the oil tankers. We've gotten pretty good at it, by the way. So I say we go after the oil tankers. I say we get those suckers, fill up some American oil supply, and take down a terrorist regime at the same time. I think that's how you do it. I think you let the people of Iran depose their own Ayatollah, and you worry about who they got coming after that. I think that would be the best way to go. I'm not so big on the airstrikes personally, but I want to know what you think. 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Armin in Maury Island. Armin, what's going on, man?
Hi, Ari. As I was explaining to Big Mike, the theme of this random thought that I had is how the left will shoot itself in the foot. If they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. So several days ago when this unfortunate incident happened in Minnesota, Tim Walz, the idiot governor, was making a comment about how he believes in states' rights, and that was part of his rationale for why Minnesota should conduct the investigation about the action of the Homeland Security agent shooting the lady in the car. Meantime, during the news break, I heard a comment about how the Supreme Court is going to be hearing this case involving transgender youth in women's sports, protecting women, and so on and so forth. That case is because Idaho and another state passed laws in their state banning, non-women in women's sports. So now put the two together. Tim Walz believes in states' rights. Well, what about the right of Idaho and that other state to decide what's best for their state?
Excellent point. Excellent point, Armin. It really, really is. And you're calling out the hypocrisy. If Washington wants to do the craziness it does, then it's up to us to get an initiative passed that says no boys in girls' sports, and that's what we're going to have to do. And then Bob Ferguson will just run to the Supreme Court and get it thrown out for some reason. But that's what we have to do. You're 100% right. If one state wants to ban abortion and another state wants to have abortion, that's states' rights. You are 100% correct. If Democrats didn't have double standards, they would have no standards at all. Armin, great call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? You give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Over on the Warrior Injury Law text line, regarding my question about Iran, got some good texts here. Rob in Port Orchard says a friendly regime in Syria seems to be working out. Same in Iran sounds good. Tariffs, total shipping blockade, and targeted airstrikes on leaders ordering civilians killed. Okay, just a few points of clarification here, Rob. We don't know if Syria is working out yet. There's something that hasn't really been talked about, is that Syria still has militias / their military killing the Druze population, not Jews, Druze population, and Israel has actually had to go in and save them. Is the leader better than the last guy? Is he playing ball with the Trump administration? Yes. Is it working out? I'm going to say Sort of. But yes, I like what Trump's doing with the tariffs. I like what Trump's doing with other ideas of taking out Iran. Look, some of you over on the text line are suggesting a complete embargo, blockade their ports, says Ted, targeted strikes on their security forces, compounds, and airfields. Hey, you guys are bigger on the airstrikes than I am, which I find interesting, by the way. You're a little bit bigger on this. This one here, John in Lakewood. I agree. Go after the Iranian oil and their export of homegrown weapons, as well as their weapons development infrastructure. The thing we found out is their weapons development infrastructure ain't that great. It wasn't able to do anything to stop the U.S. attack on Iran or the Israeli attacks on Iran. When Israel is refueling mid-air over Iran, when America is refueling mid-air over Iran, you have complete air dominance and superiority. Benny in Renton says there's no loss of life if you do the oil embargo, right? I mean, there's always a chance of that if you're raiding ships, if you're seizing ships. There's a chance of that. I'm not going to say no loss of life. That's something that could definitely happen. So this is something I'm fascinated that a lot of you guys want the airstrikes. This one here, Becky and Enumclaw. Well, I definitely think targeted airstrikes would be wonderful, and oil. Anything to hurt the regime and do what we can to help the protesters. Really help the protesters. This is fascinating, by the way, that you guys want to go that far with it, with the airstrikes. I got you. I hear what you're saying. I'm a little reluctant on the airstrikes because how involved are we going to get? How far down that rabbit hole? Does it mean taking out the Ayatollah? Wait a minute. We've gotten pretty good at capturing dictators. Maybe we should go in and get the Ayatollah. Do you think we should go in and get the Ayatollah? 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Let me know if you think we should go in. Now, President Trump has announced more tariffs. He announced an immediate and final trade order targeting Iran and its global partners. He wrote on Truth Social that any country that continues doing business with the Islamic Republic of Iran would be hit with a 25% tariff on all trade with the U.S. He said, effective immediately, any country doing business with Iran will pay a tariff of 25% on any and all business being done in the United States of America. This order is final and conclusive. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The post came amid heightened tension with Iran as the country entered its 15th day, a spiraling protest in which hundreds of people have reported to have been killed since December 28th. This is something that isn't going away anytime soon. In fact, what's happening here in America is even more interesting. Aside from what I mentioned about the protests in Seattle, where the very, very white, very, very liberal, very, very diverse people showed up to protest the Iranian Americans who say they want their freedom from the Ayatollah. One person was struck after a U-Haul truck drove through a crowd of demonstrators during a protest in Los Angeles on Sunday in support of anti-regime protesters in Iran. According to local authorities, the driver was taken into custody and is being detained pending further investigation. Protesters attending the event attacked the driver and the vehicle as it was going through the rally, but it was not immediately clear why the truck was there. The incident occurred around 3:30 p.m. along Veteran Avenue near the Federal Building in the Westwood neighborhood, according to Los Angeles Police Department. Hundreds of people have gathered in the area as part of a march backing protesters in Iran. The driver of the U-Haul drove through the crowd, and he had a really big banner up on the thing. No Shah, no regime, USA, don't repeat 1953, no mullah. So you don't want the Shah to return? By the way, the Shah's son is still around, and that's who they're talking about replacing the Ayatollah with. But you don't want the Ayatollah? I'm confused. Did you just rent a truck to put a banner on it and drive it through a crowd? That's craziness. That's absolute craziness, by the way. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Greg in Puyallup. Greg, what's up, man?
Hey, I got to be on your side on this targeted strikes or go after the tankers or, squeeze them some other way. I think, like I was telling Large Mike, I think we're on a kind of a camp high or kind of a euphoria after really having a lot of success in Venezuela. And, okay, cool. I think, we appear to be very good at what we do. But, I was, 1980 or 79 or 80. I still remember the mess in the Iranian desert called Desert One at that hostage rescue mission that did not go well.
Yeah.
So it's, we can go from hero to zero in a big hurry.
I think you're 100% right. And what do you think the left is going to do if we blow one of these operations?
Oh, they'd run that for years, like it was Reagan's fault for 30 years for everything.
Right,
They'd
exactly.
pull
And
a lot of
here's
miles.
something else, by the way. Then they get to say Trump isn't good with the military, and people will forget about every other success he has because they'll just keep playing clips of a failed operation, right?
Well, Trump can cure cancer, and they'd be upset because he put oncologists out of work. Trump destroys jobs, hundreds of doctors out of work.
Oh, that's
the way it
very,
goes.
very good. That's very, very good. I like that. Yeah, I think you're 100% right, Greg. I really, really do. And here's the thing. I mean, I don't want to push our luck with the air raids. I mean, we're pretty good at that so far. But you're right, is that what happens if we mess one of these things up? Look, I got confidence in American military might, but you can't bat 1,000. You just can't. And eventually, you're going to have a loss. I mean, look, we had people who got injured in the Maduro raid. We're not talking about it that much, but there were people who were injured. We're lucky nobody was killed.
There were. And we don't know what's going on the ground. There's got to be U.S. assets on the ground, or maybe French, or maybe British, maybe Canadian. Probably not. But who knows what's going on?
Right. We don't even know, and that's one of the reasons we're trying to get Starlink, or Elon Musk is trying to get Starlink up and running. They've had an internet blackout for, 2 weeks now? We don't really know entirely what's going on there. We really, really don't. Greg, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Mike says over on the text line, no more airstrikes. Rob in Lakewood said this over on the text line.
Bomb, 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 Iran. 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 Our country's got a feeling, really, if you see it from Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran.
Any excuse to play that song. I do love it. So continue to weigh in. Let me know what you think. We'll keep reading your texts throughout the show, but I want to know what you guys think. This one from the 425. Ari, in regard to Iran, definitely go after the oil to further mess up their economy. But also, we do need targeted strikes for two reasons. One, President Trump said he would if they start shooting the protesters. He needs to keep his word. And two, it'll show the Iranians that we have their back. Excellent point, 425. Excellent point. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back with the legislative cycle underway, apparently the Republicans all walked out of the legislature today. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Well, we started another legislative session out in Olympia today, and the fun has already started. Joining us now to discuss the craziness is the investigative journalist and the government reporter for the Center Square, our friend Carlene Johnson. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Ari. Boy, happy session 2026.
I wouldn't say happy anything about this session, not to correct my friend there. So, as I understand it, some Republicans were walking out of the opening speech by Speaker Lori Jenkins today. What happened there?
Yeah, I haven't seen this before, and mind you, this is only my third session, like covering, full-time legislative reporter. When I worked for you guys at KVI and Como for many years, I covered session, but wasn't down in Olympia. But this is my third session in a row, and this is the first time I've ever seen members from the minority party, of course, still Republicans, walking off the floor as the speaker gives her opening remarks. Usually the sort of the tenor of the opening remarks are kind of, I don't know, you attempt to show some appearance of bipartisanship, even though, of course, they know they've got wide majorities in the House and the Senate, and, of course, the governor's mansion. So, but this was different. This was right from the jump. Speaker Lori Jenkins from Tacoma, it was literally, I kid you not, many people were counting, including myself, 7 to 8 seconds into the speech when we first heard the reference to blaming, the big orange man, blaming President Trump for this Washington's problems.
So let me make sure I got this right. They raise taxes. They chase out businesses. They spend like crazy. And they're blaming President Trump. Do you think it's worth me making a montage of how many times she mentioned him, or was it just a lot of subtle references?
No, I think, in fact, after the speech concluded off in the wings, Representative Andrew Barkas walked by me and he rolled his eyes and he said, "Did you count them? I counted at least 7. I think there might have been more." And he was talking about Trump references. I have not counted them myself because I was, doing some videotaping and talking to other members. As you mentioned, as you introduced me, Ari, several Republican members walked off the floor. The first of them was Representative Jenny Graham of Spokane Valley. She walked off and looked at me as I was videotaping in the wings, kind of just threw up her hands in exasperation, like, what in the world? Representative Peter Abarno, GOP Chairman Jim Walsh, Representative Couture. I watched several members walk off the floor, and I've never seen that before. And all of them said, is this really the tone we're starting this session with? For crumb's sake, it was so bad last session. The minority party was completely shut out of any negotiations. We got the budget, in the last 48 hours or something, and the largest tax increases in state history. So it appears we might be on the same kind of trajectory for this session, and it's going to be fun.
I still don't think fun is the right word there, Carlene. So what were the big ticket items they were talking about today from the floor that the Democrats want to try and pass, including the income tax, I'm sure?
Well, exactly. The millionaires tax, as they want to refer to it as, that it's only going to affect millionaires. But I mean, I think you've even reported on this. I know Phil has in the morning show, talking about the fact that, we've already had Representative Springer, who's said on the record, okay, so how do we trust Democrats that this is only going to be a tax on millionaires when we've seen what's happened with capital gains? And he said, well, don't trust us on that. So, I mean, they're not even trying to hide the fact that this is just a test case to go through the courts and see where it goes. And they're, obviously hoping for an income tax on all the rest of us. She talked about that. Oh, my gosh, Ari, this is when it got really ugly. And you heard audible gasps from the Republican side of the House. She starts talking about the shooting in Minnesota of Renee Good by the ICE officer. Last week. And she started bringing up the fact that this was evidence for why we need to unmask all of our ICE officers in the state of Washington for transparency. Nobody should be able to hide their face. There is a bill that receives a hearing. It's an 8 o'clock hearing tomorrow, Senate committee. I'll be there. I'll be writing on it. I would encourage anybody who has time to, partake or even come down and testify if you should choose to. this is one that is going to create a whole lot of controversy. But that, again, caused a couple other members to walk off the floor. And I haven't seen that before.
Let me make sure I got this right. I looked at the video of the opening ceremonies today, and the thumbnail is pretty entertaining. It's a bunch of, I guess they're Native Americans playing drums and dancing.
You heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that went on for a bit.
And in front of them, there's a lady wearing a mask. So I'm kind of wondering, are they also extending this to, I don't know, mostly peaceful protests out in the streets of Washington? Or is it just the ICE agents they want to take the masks off, not domestic terrorists?
Interesting. And I have to tell you, there are so many people that work on the Capitol campus in certain buildings and in certain offices that all wear masks all the time since COVID. I don't get it. I went to pick up my credentials today in the Senate office. Remember all the slap-on credentials? We now have to go pick them up every week. You can't just get a hard pass as a member of the media for the session. You got to pick them up every Monday, and that'll get you through that week. And every person working in that office was wearing a mask. Now, was somebody sick and they're trying to protect themselves? I don't know. I didn't ask. It's just weird.
It kind of makes me want to go down there and just start hacking everywhere just to watch them absolutely freak out at me. Carlene Johnson, before we let you go, aside from the budget insanity, aside from the mask stuff, any other hot ticket items that came up today, or they're waiting for tomorrow to bring all that stuff up?
Well, I will tell you, I just found out right before I joined you on the air, Ari, that Senator Lisa Wellman's bill, I think it's 5926, but you'll have to double check my numbers. She introduced this bill that was going to make it so that we could not look up online information about daycare providers, right, and their employees and that sort of a thing. It was to protect them from, venomous, reporters like myself who might want to knock on somebody's door and say, is this actually a daycare? She has yanked that bill. She's been told today it will not get a public hearing, and the bill has been withdrawn. And I was just notified of that about 10 minutes before I joined you.
Oh,
so
that's awesome. Yes,
your audience gets to find that out.
A lot of online shame for that one. Carlene, just before we let you go, one last question. You posted a video of you going head-to-head with Bob Ferguson asking him about Tim Walz. Did he call on you at all during that media availability? Because that was kind of towards the end of the presser when you wanted to ask a few questions, or was he just ignoring you and you tried to get a question in? Why don't you give us a circumstance about that video? We played it earlier.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was hoping I was going to get a second question in. I asked a question specifically about, kind of the daycare and the fraud stuff, and Representative Couture has a bill that he's hoping will get a hearing that would expand opportunities for, transparency and accountability, like third-party audits. I think you're aware of the legislation to look into some of that. So I asked him about that because I was working on that story. I thought I'd get a second question in because there were not that many other reporters in attendance. He went okay, this is just my sense. He went out of his way to avoid me, and Brandy Cruz was sitting next to me. She got a couple questions in, but I didn't get my second question in, which was going to be about Governor Walz. So as he walked away, did his mic drop moment away from the podium, I did get that last minute question in, to which he responded that he, basically had no comment. And under his breath, he said, "Nice try." I don't know if you could hear that on the video, but I only heard that later. I thought, nice try what?
Oh.
Nice try to get you to respond to a question?
Oh, I think we're going to have to reach out to his office and ask him for a formal response. Carlene Johnson.
He responds to you quite a bit.
Yeah, I know. He loves me so much. Carlene Johnson, reporter for the Center Square. Thank you so much, and please keep us updated on everything that happens during the session, all right?
Will do.
All right, really appreciate it. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. A local park was destroyed by the homeless. Now it's being destroyed by the city workers trying to clean up the mess the homeless made. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Over the weekend, you might have seen some videos going around social media showing how bad the homeless encampments have gotten on our streets since Katie Wilson got sworn in as mayor of Seattle. Well, now a notorious homeless encampment at one specific park got so bad it actually destroyed an outdoor structure, and now the city has to come in and rebuild the thing. Joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line to discuss from We Heart Seattle, Andrea Suarez. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Hi, Ari. Good evening.
Those videos were heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking because I know that park. It's a beautiful park. It's a gorgeous park, has a beautiful look of the entire city. And you warned the city multiple times that the drug use and everything was going to destroy. It's not a gazebo. It's some kind of outdoor structure. And now it's completely gone, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the scenic viewpoint pavilion that overlooks the city of Seattle from a very historic park named after Dr. Jose Rizal himself. And it's actually been deteriorating for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, sounding the alarm that this park has just been under siege. And finally, the pavilion got so far damaged that they had no choice but to take it down, really kind of like out of a state of emergency, because the roof was failing, the foundation was failing, the pillars were failing, and it was also just a way to deter returning of the activity.
Crazy stuff. So now the thing burned down, or was it just destroyed like you've been talking about over years and years, that now the city's doing something about it?
It was a compromised roof, fires, the barbecues had torched, the foundation. It's just been deteriorating for years, and really local community members used the reason that, hey, this thing is really just super dangerous for all. It needs to be taken down. I mean, there was community members that were urging the city really as a bittersweet action to take down something that not only was dangerous, but was just simply attracting this ongoing year-round drug-related activity and unsanctioned camping. Now those people are only, of course, as we know, just over in the other park known as Sturgis Park, where you also saw the photo of the guy putting out a fire or trying to inflame a fire with a gas tank, a tank of gas. So, this didn't just go away. This activity is now just over 2 parks down the road.
Of course it did. Now they'll destroy that park and move on and move on and move on and move on. So is the city talking about rebuilding this pavilion because they know it's going to come back after that? Or is it just, well, you guys ruined a good thing, so now it's gone?
So the plans are to firstly focus on rebuilding the bathrooms. They're going to tear that down. I think the budget, oh my gosh, I mean, these plans are online. It's something like $2 million to rebuild the bathroom to be a gender neutral bathroom. And where the pavilion was, apparently there's going to be a new playground. There's plans. It's not totally budgeted for, but the community, including myself as a long-term volunteer in the park, is that unless you have guardrails put up to protect, from the drug-related activity, you're just continuously wasting money to activate these parks, only to have them be destroyed. They're totally against cameras, any form of security through technology, and it's just I hate to use the term. I love Seattle so much. I hate to say the lipstick on the pig thing, but we just keep trying to make things better with art and statues and gender-neutral bathrooms and all the culturally appropriate things when these places are not safe from drug-related activity, gang-related activity, shootings, crime, graffiti, dealing of all kind. And this neighborhood has particularly been under siege for years.
Now, Andrea, you've been warning since the beginning of Katie Wilson's term that even before the term, these encampments have been growing, and I saw what you were talking about just last week. Last week, I had to go out to Soto and Georgetown, where you know what I'm doing out there. So I'm out there checking on things, and I saw tents being set up. I saw people moving back into the neighborhood. Is this citywide, what's going on right now?
It is citywide. I've been getting calls from my friends from 4 years ago out of Woodland Park, Green Lake Park, concerned that camps are returning since Katie Wilson took office, even actually since bordering cities have enforced no sit, no lie laws, camping bans in Burien, Camus beyond. People are coming here in droves, and they know, these folks are smart. They know that this is a friendly, drug-friendly city, a sanctuary city where at worst, they may get arrested, but they'll get put into a diversion program, which they may or may not ever get, enrolled in or caught up to. I really would like to hear what is the system within the system for this diversion program, because the only thing I hear and the only thing that drug addicts and criminals hear is lenient, no accountability, no rock bottom, come one, come all, and camps have repopulated all the nooks and crannies, and it's only going to get worse from here unless Katie Wilson comes out strongly and says, we are going to sweep, we are going to enforce, no unsanctioned camping, and I haven't heard those words out of her mouth yet.
So what you're saying is it's not going to get better. I mean, I hate to be crass or make fun of that, but she's never going to do that.
It's not going to get better, Ari, if she's focusing on Minnesota. I'm just so sick and tired of this.
Yeah.
She's up on Capitol Hill. Everybody's focusing on some state in the Midwest with their own drama. Meanwhile, we have fentanyl overdoses, encampments, crime, stabbings, bus safety, and we're holding, rallies for these causes that, for me, I just don't care. All I care about is our backyard, our parks, our common shared spaces, and what she's going to do about them. Now, I sat in on a community meeting with new council member Eddie Lynn on Saturday morning instead of going to my litter pick, and I was very disappointed that he continued to repeat the stale talking points that this is a housing problem, that these people are in parks suffering from drug addiction because, as Colburn said from the University of Washington, that homelessness is a housing problem. And he's regurgitating what Dow Constantine said, and it's just so stale and tiring that these people are not using their own eyeballs anymore.
I don't think they want to use their own eyeballs. It seems like they don't want this to end. Andrea, give us your website so that people can support your efforts to stop this kind of stuff in the city.
Sure. WeHeartSeattle.org. We are privately funded, and we're using our resources to pick trash, reveal the truth, build trust, get people to treatment, and advocate for better policy. And we appreciate any support, time, talent, or treasure our way. Thank you so much.
And you're doing an amazing job with the videos revealing all the stuff that too many other people in our city do not want to talk about. Andrea Suarez from We Heart Seattle, really appreciate you joining us today and all your hard work on behalf of the city of Seattle. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ari.
Always a pleasure. Only good news to wrap up the show. Good news headlines. Put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute, plus some of your texts we didn't get to yet. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And John in Lakewood sent this funny text, by the way, in response to the Indians drumming in the legislature. He says, Native Americans. Indians drumming in the legislature, isn't that a violation of the separation of church and state? I like that. Very, very good. That's pretty good. I see that you guys have some varied opinions on the Iran stuff. We're going to have to dig into this more tomorrow. Some of you are reminding us about how bad the Shah was. He had a secret police that disappeared people too. Now you want his son back in charge? Look, guys, we're not good at nation building. It's a matter of who's the enemy in front of us and what are we trying to do right now. The Iranian people really have to decide what to do with their country. Anytime we come around and mess around in this kind of stuff, it doesn't usually end that well for us. Question is, how's it going to end for Iran? We'll get more into that tomorrow.
Hey, man, I just want to know how we could get more oil to drive down the price of petroleum so that petroleum products like plastic can make my action figures cost less.
That's the important thing here.
I'm literally a single issue voter.
I love it.
We will bring down prices to at least 2021, if not 2020 prices. I'd be like, you got my vote.
Mike, I don't think you're a single issue voter. If we could bring down ticket prices at Ticketmaster, you'd be happy about that too, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I will join a coalition with the Swifties and Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam because Ticketmaster has got to go.
Yes, too expensive, or at least the monopoly has to end. But Mike did find this great story from the Seattle Times about one guy. Ben Conklin has been told he looks like Seattle Seahawks star quarterback Sam Darnold for years. The 27-year-old data engineer who was raised in Malpe by just 1 year younger than the two-time Pro Bowler even uses the name Discount Darnold for his fantasy football teams. Conklin says he's a little more handsome than I am. The simple joke among friends and occasional strangers reached new heights on December 28th when the Seahawks faced the Carolina Panthers at Bank of America Stadium. Conklin, now based in Charlotte, North Carolina, scored front-row tickets for the Week 17 game, and late in the fourth quarter, the cameras found him. CBS broadcasters noticed the uncanny resemblance and coined a nickname that immediately stuck. Oh, look. We've got Sam Darnold in the stands also, and they have a side-by-side with him and the player. He says, I wonder if that guy could go out there and get a couple of snaps in. They added, yeah, that's Stan Darnold. The nickname went viral on social media, even prompting Conklin to change his X profile. That's pretty entertaining, by the way, with all this. My wife really encouraged me to lean into my similar looks to Sam Darnold, Conklin said of his wife who attended the game with him. She's been an awesome driver in all this. Before that game, she said, you really look like Sam. You should get a little sign together, and we should go to the stands and wave the sign and see if anybody notices. Dude went mega viral, as I'm understanding, right,
Well,
Mike?
what's funny about it, Ari, is that, like you just said in the story, the TV camera found him, but I will never forget this as long as I live. I'm watching TV. They cut to this guy a couple times.
Yeah.
And at one point, they cut to him, and the wife is holding her phone in her hands, and she like grabs him by the shoulder and starts shoving him. And he's like, what's going on? He pulls out his phone, and he's just now realized in real time on national television that this guy has just become mega viral. What a cool moment.
That's funny. Apparently, the wife was holding up a sign that said #1 Sam fan and Darnold diehards. And when he's holding that up and he looks just like the guy, gold, absolute gold. He said he styled his red hair, which is nearly identical to Darnold's, to match the quarterback's typical side part. He said, actually, at that game, before the broadcast, a random Seahawks fan, his family was, oh my gosh, can we take a picture with you?
Well, it also helps he's wearing a number 14 jersey also.
Right.
I mean, he's literally cosplaying as Sam Darnold.
That's really funny. I like this. The Seahawks social media team reached out to him last week to cap off the viral moment. Conklin has been a diehard Seahawks fan since his freshman year at Monroe High in 2012, sent his well wishes to Darnold ahead of the playoffs in a video to show the quarterback on Thursday. Says, that's my guy right there, said Darnold with a laugh when presented with the video. The video says, hey, Sam, it's Stan here. Congratulations on a fantastic 2025 season, taking down the #1 overall seed in the NFC. Super excited to watch you and the rest of the team as you move on to the playoffs. Darnold then signed a jersey for Conklin, inscribed, my ginger brother. By the way, that's first rate. That's first class. You could have been like, no, I don't want to deal with all this. That's really good. I like that a lot. His stock just went up, in my opinion. Coughlin plans to frame Darnold's signed jersey, hang it up front and center in his living room for everyone to see as they come in. Should you ask him for the Lombardi if they win it? You know, you take that sucker, get it signed by him, get a fake one made for the house, get that signed for it. You can really mess with a lot of people that way. The Seahawks, who won the NFC West and clinched the top seed in the conference, return to action the divisional round this weekend at Lumen Field. Mike, how much the tickets going for the last time you checked?
Like $1,000.
$1,000 for the tickets.
Yeah, I'm glad I got mine before the prices got super nuts.
Yeah.
I basically got on, like, as the game was ending against the 49ers, ironically enough, I was on Ticketmaster, and I'll email this to my rant from 5 minutes ago. I could see the prices changing in real time.
That's crazy.
As me and my wife were trying to discuss where we wanted to go. It's like, see what else is there. Okay, well, go back over there. Sweetie, those just went up by $200.
Oh, my God.
And this was just straight Ticketmaster. This wasn't resellers. That's why I'm so mad about it, because if it was just resellers, it's like, well, you snooze, you lose, whatever. But yeah, man, I will join that Swiftie coalition against Ticketmaster for sure. But we are super grateful to get our tickets to watch the Seahawks beat the Niners yet again. The last time we faced the 49ers at Lumen Field for a divisional playoff, you may have remembered. I'll get the audio for tomorrow when we do this story again, but it's my man Richard Sherman. It's it's so infamous they should still build a statue for that, even though that guy is long gone. But the famous tip off of a sorry receiver, Michael Crabtree. That's the result you're gonna get. LOB.
We should for sure play that clip tomorrow. I know exactly which one you're talking about. That's gonna do it for us today, my friends. But fear not, we will be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and more Seahawks news for all you fans out there. You've been listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570.